Darren Aronofsky is one of the most divisive and controversial filmmakers working today, his most recent film, Mother, having split critical opinions right down the middle, some heralding it as a clever, thought-provoking insight into the problems of humanity, while others deem it to be little more than a pretentious example of style over substance. Despite this, Aronofsky has certainly crafted his niche in Hollywood, with films such as Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan and The Wrestler, and regardless of your personal opinions on his work, it's undoubtable to say that Aronofsky presents his films and his characters in a very visceral and harsh nature. These sensibilities, which have become a hallmark style of his work, would have lended themselves well to telling a story about a dark anti-hero, one driven by a burning sense of injustice and vengeance, in the form of Batman. Aronofsky's Batman project is one of the more interesting and elusive what-ifs in film history, and would have had serious ramifications for not only the character that we know to be the Dark Knight, but also to the modern cinematic landscape as a whole. The Batman film series had finally run out of steam in 1997. The critical and commercial failure that was Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin had finally undone all of the great work laid out by Tim Burton and Michael Keaton, and Batman, much like his parents before him, appeared to be lying dead in the gutter, with no hope of salvation. Warner Brothers had attempted a variety of different ways to bring back the Caped Crusader, from planned sequels to Batman and Robin aimed to darken the tone and return the series to its Burton-esque roots, to a Batman and Superman crossover film, an idea they clearly had in mind the next time they had to reboot the character. But none of these really materialised. While scripts were turned in by Mark Protasiewicz and Akiva Goldsman for these respective films, Warner Brothers failed to settle on a clear plan for the future of Batman, and this is when they stumbled upon an exciting new director, fresh off the success of his debut feature film, Darren Aronofsky. In 1998, Aronofsky released Pi, a surreal psychological thriller centred around a paranoid mathematician obsessed with the irrational number, of which the film was named after. Pi was a surprise hit with critics, earning Aronofsky the directing award at the 1998 Sundance Film Festival, and an Independent Spirit Award for Best First Screenplay. Soon after this, he began working on his follow-up film, 2000's Requiem for a Dream, a psychological drama about drug addiction, based on a 1978 novel by Hubert Selby Jr. However, while working on Requiem, Aronofsky became involved in developing a live-action adaptation of Frank Miller's cyberpunk comic Ronin. Despite signing with New Line Cinema in 1998 to bring the story to life, Miller and Aronofsky's Ronin never saw the light of day, but it was this collaboration that birthed a new idea, Batman. In mid-2000, Aronofsky was brought in by Warner Brothers to offer his new take on Batman, with the director aiming to retell the character's origin story as a way to move away from the Schumacher films and seeking to adapt the most popular and infamous Batman origin story, Frank Miller's 1987 Batman Year One. Aronofsky brought Miller onto the project as a writer, with the pair seeking to adapt the themes of the classic story while also presenting a more grounded and realistic take on the Dark Knight's early years. In a December 2000 interview with IGN, Aronofsky stated that the film would be somewhat based on the comic, but warned audiences to toss out everything you can imagine about Batman. We're starting completely anew. After seeing how Schumacher's films had failed through a mandate of style over substance, the quality of film being put second behind merchandise and toy appeal, Aronofsky chose to strip back many of these elements of the character and instead offer a more grounded and street-level Batman, unlike anything we'd ever seen on screen before. And while Aronofsky sought to preserve the core essentials of the Batman mythos, he and Miller sought to rebuild this core in a radically new way. For instance, the film would open with the young Bruce Wayne witnessing the death of his parents, but instead of being sheltered at Wayne Manor by Alfred until leaving to travel the world, Bruce loses his fortune and is forced to live on the streets before being took in by Big Al, the owner of an auto repair shop. We would see Bruce, now in his early 20s, watch the world around him deteriorate as he comes of age, witnessing Gotham's fall into corruption, crime and sleaze in an almost Taxi Driver-esque way. Instead of presenting Batman as a heroic, well-trained avenger of the night, Aronofsky wanted his Batman to be the manifestation of the rage and anger that Bruce Wayne felt. This Batman wouldn't rely on state-of-the-art tech and gadgets, and instead donned a cheap homemade suit and whatever weapons he could either find or make in order to wage his war on crime. This DIY take on the character is best characterised in Aronofsky's idea for both the Batcave and the Batmobile, the former being an abandoned underground subway tunnel and the latter being a Lincoln Continental with 2 bus engines in it. Despite Miller and Aronofsky's excitement towards the project, convincing Warner Brothers to greenlight a hard R noir Batman film proved to be challenging and ultimately caused the production to fall apart, with all that remained being the basic premise, a gritty retelling of Batman's early years, with a heavy inspiration from Batman Year One. And this was later developed by a new director, one who had also become a hot prospect in Hollywood thanks to the success of his own independent films, Christopher Nolan, who signed on to direct a new Batman film in January 2003, and in the summer of 2005, the world finally saw this vision manifest in Batman Begins. However, while promoting his latest film, Mother, Aronofsky was asked about his Batman pitch, stating that, "I think we were basically 15 years too early, because I hear the way they're talking about the Joker movie, and that's exactly my pitch." He added that, "And I was always like, why can't we make a more low-budget R-rated movie? Just like in comics you have different brands, but now they're finally doing that. This is an exciting time, because they'll be able to take more risks, and we won't be seeing the same movie over again. You'll get things like Deadpool, which was a relief as compared to seeing the same film over and over again." And while Nolan's Batman Begins film very much ushered in a renaissance age for Batman, and the success of its sequel 2008's The Dark Knight changed the landscape of comic book movies entirely, it's hard to deny there is something so intrinsically fascinating about Aronofsky's proposed Batman film. While it's true that it would be a huge departure from what we're used to seeing from the character, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. While his and Miller's treatments did strip away many of the key parts of what makes Batman so great, it doesn't strip away what makes him Batman. And while it would possibly feel more like The Punisher than it would The Dark Knight, there's a part of me that does begin to wonder what the world's perception of Batman would be if instead of Batman Begins, our first Batman film in 8 years would be a Taxi Driver-inspired noir film, and what, in turn, that would mean for the entire comic book movie genre. Hey everyone, thank you so much for checking out today's video. Please make sure to leave a comment down below and talk about anything we discussed in the video itself. What do you think about Darren Aronofsky as a filmmaker? What do you think of Mother, if you've seen it? I know it's caused a lot of controversy. And what do you think about the idea of him and Frank Miller teaming up to make a Batman Year One movie? Imagine how crazy that'd be. Whatever your thoughts are, please make sure to leave them down below. And if you enjoyed this video, do give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot, and you can stay up to date for all the new videos that I'm making every other Friday. There's going to be some really interesting stuff coming up. You can follow me on Twitter at Owen Likes Comics. If you want to help me make more videos, you can support the channel on Patreon, and there are some more videos on screen right now that you may enjoy, and I'll see you next time. So take care and keep reading.